besides, your sort of your mandatory and statutory training, what else is there that they look to? How do they support their staff to develop their skills to make sure that they're providing the best care possible?
You're listening to the Care Podcast, brought to you by Unique Senior Care. We're here to share honest, practical conversations about navigating the care journey. Whether you've just started exploring care for a loved one or relative, or whether you're already receiving it. In this episode, Rachel Shaw and Shirley Way from Skills for Care are joining us. Skills for Care is the organisation that sets the standards for training across the care sector. We're going to explore what great care training looks like, why it matters, and how to choose the right provider. So welcome, Shirley and Rachel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Can you start by telling us a little bit about why you love working in care? What drew you into this sector?
Shirley, do you want to go first?
So I started work supporting people, I suppose, since the age of 14. So in the little Welsh village that I worked in, there was a little boy there that needed physiotherapy. So all the village raised money for him to go to America and then come back. And we all volunteered. And that sort of gave me the little spark. So I decided I wanted to be a midwife. Never actually got to be a midwife, never got to be a nurse. I went on placement working with young offenders whilst I was at college and found that was where I really enjoyed working. So I worked with young offenders for a number of years, eventually then went into the Learning and Development Department. Always worked with Skills for Care. Since it was set up in 2001, worked very closely, and it was the one organisation I wanted to work for. So then 8.5 years ago, a job came up and I applied. I like the values and their mission statement. So I'm working with the providers. It just opens up your world into what adult social care is, and you see the amazing work that people do. So being able to support people, it's a strange journey to where I've got, but
Brilliant.
Love it.
So all that from a little boy in a Welsh village
Yeah, all
who
that
needed
from
some
there.
physio. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. What about yourself, Rachel?
Well, I started a completely different career many years ago when I worked in finance for quite a while, and then I decided that I wanted a complete change and wanted to move into something where I felt like I was making a difference and helping people. So I started work on different sort of funded projects where you're supporting people with disabilities, and working with employers, helping to find them, employment and to sort of stay in employment, and looking at, ways that we could support people to develop with, volunteering. And so I worked sort of out in the community a lot with local businesses and employers and directly with people with health conditions and disabilities. And I loved that, and I did that for many years with various with organisations who were receiving funding from different places for those sort of programmes. And I worked for the NHS, helping to sort of help people to keep their jobs with it who were suffering with disabilities and health conditions. So did that as well. And then obviously I'd heard of Skills for Care and what they did. And a bit like Shirley, obviously really were with the values that they've got, sort of aligning with my own as well. And looking at how they support the adult social care sector. Sort of as quite broadly, and that really appealed to me. And then I was lucky enough to see a position that came up, and so that's how I got into working for Skills for Care. But I think like Shirley said, it's being able to work with providers and seeing the massive difference and the impact that they have with people every day. It's quite inspiring.
Yeah, and it's really important, isn't it? Because sometimes we hear so many bad news stories about care, and one of the things that Skills for Care is really good at, which is so important, is actually sharing and celebrating the good news stories and the amazing things that are happening in the social care industry.
Yeah, it's very often not seen that what they may what a difference they make to people's lives every single day, just by sometimes just small actions. And it is, they don't ask for recognition. People just do it. People don't realise what skilled professionals each and every individual is that works in the sector. And it is a shame it's not always seen.
Yeah. I think, like you said, Jo, you see some, you hear, the odd sort of quite, bad story, something that might have happened within, social care. But there's so much good, and you don't always hear about that. And there is a lot more good than there is bad that we, that we perhaps need to be sharing and hearing about.
Yeah, definitely.
And such amazing best practice, and that's what's good, I think, within the adult social care sector, is that people are so willing to help each other as well, and to share that best practice and support what in other sectors would be competition, other businesses, but they're so willing to share and help others right across the board.
Definitely, yeah. So you've talked about your journey into Skills for Care, but could you just tell us briefly, what does Skills for Care do for those who don't already know?
So we're a charity, been going since, I said earlier, 2001, and we are the strategic workforce planning body for the adult social care sector in England. And our aim is to ensure that we have supported, valued and well-trained workforce for the sector. We do that in a variety of ways, and I think we'd need several hours to go through. But we offer support and guidance around best practice, tools. We also hold the workforce intelligence and the insight for the sector. And we work closely with the Department of Health and Social Care. And we work with all care providers, as we said, the government, but also local authorities, integrated care boards, so the health aspect, as well as anybody who really touches on adult social care, including education, so we can start to inspire people to come into the sector and make sure that they have appropriate learning and development opportunities to then come in and develop their careers with us.
Thank you.
And a lot of the skills and resources, and obviously that we provide from Skills for Care, it gives the care workforce the opportunity to develop their skills, and obviously then ensures that the quality of care that's delivered is of a high standard.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So we've talked already about the importance of having that focus on skills and learning and development, and how skilled care workers are. But what would you say a really good initial induction looks like for a care worker? If I was wanting to organise care for my family, what kind of questions might I ask about that induction, and what would I expect to see?
Well, with Skills for Care, we've got we've obviously got an induction process that providers can use to ensure that a member of staff is fully inducted right from the first when they're first offered the position, right through to their 6 month of employment, because when new staff start within with an employer, the first few weeks and months are crucial, and that's where we need to be ensuring that we've got a robust induction there so that we can retain that staff member. And that's why we've got, the resources available from Skills for Care to help providers with that. But it's, from a family member's point of view, it's making sure that they do have an induction in place that helps the new starter, settle in, so they understand what the provider does, what their values are. They get to build perhaps relationships and how they would build relationships with the clients that they're supporting, and how the employer makes sure that they're adequately, have done all the mandatory and statutory training that they need to do. So that's the sort of thing that perhaps you'd be looking for within an induction.
Yeah, and I think it's important, as you said, Rachel, is that even before they start, so that when they first walk through the door, they feel as if they know where they're going into. There's someone there to greet them who knows them, and there's a planning process. All the staff know they're there. There's, it takes away some of that fear that when they first come in, that many of us has when we first start a job, is not knowing when you open that door what's the other side. And then it's about ensuring all the staff are aware of their role in the induction, so that they know if they've got time planned for the person to shadow them, for them to, to help them on maybe learning certain processes, systems, introducing them. And really most important, with the people they're going to be offering care and support to, that actually, they have that time to get to know that individual. I think the worst thing is someone coming into work, no one really greets them, and then they're just expected to start there and then. And maybe even with, personal care, the minute that they walk through the door, without really getting to know the individual that they're there to support. And that can be really off-putting. And we do see, I think it's over 30% of people we lose within the first year of starting within the sector. And I think a lot of that is down to the type of induction that they have.
Yeah.
And it's then looking at, everyone brings different skills and passions and knowledge, and it's getting to know them as well as them getting to know you, and then working with them to develop that and really harness it, and spotting those early signs of leadership, those qualities that you can see shine out of people when they come in, and helping them develop that, because they are some of those people, the managers of the future.
Yeah.
We were actually I was at a Registered Managers Network meeting yesterday. Actually, that's one of the things that Skills for Care do, to like a peer support network for registered managers. And we were on about an induction process, and majority, all of them in the room did, were talking about the inductions that they've got, and all of them said that they have a minimum of a 2-week peer sort of mentor program, where the new starter has a peer mentor for the 6 months of their induction period, but for at least the first 2 weeks, what they're doing is they're shadowing a sort of a more senior member of staff before they don't do anything on their own until they've had that sort of at least 2 weeks of shadowing. So that also gives them the opportunity to settle into their role, get to know the other staff, but also get to know the people that they're supporting. Well, with the comfort of somebody else, of perhaps a more senior, more experienced member of staff with them, to help them build their own confidence. So it was really, encouraging and positive to hear that most providers do have quite a robust induction process in place.
Yeah, that's really reassuring, because certainly in my years working in care, I've met a number of people who have kind of told me that they joined a company and they were out delivering care without any kind of formal training or support. I've got to say, I don't hear it so much nowadays, which is reassuring, but it's something that I've heard, and which absolutely shocks me to think that somebody could go out and care for, say, my mum, who hadn't had any kind of professional guidance or training or knowledge and skills built up before they went.
Yeah, and I think also the other thing is, which is a move forward. We spoke that Skills for Care work with integrating care boards with health, etc. So we've worked nationally with NHS England, to build a health and social care induction. So that's offered to both new staff in the sector in social care, but also in health, because then it's about, we're part of this bigger picture that people don't always see, and it's about then understanding other people's roles, but then your role, so where you fit into it. So you understand that, working with local GP practices, health visitors, the local trust, the hospital, etc., some of the like occupational therapists, it's understanding all that. So there's actually resources now that support providers to help their, induct their staff into seeing the bigger picture. And again, it's showing them how valuable their role is, however small they think it is, it's not. It's a real big part of the jigsaw, and it makes them feel valued from day one.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the kind of things that we should be expecting good and outstanding care providers to train their staff in? You've mentioned briefly personal care, but what other kind of skills and knowledge would we be looking for?
Well, you've got the obviously it depends on the support that the individual sort of provider or employer provides, but so you'd have the specialist sort of knowledge and training that you would, for example, my mum's gone blank now.
So we've got some people who, dementia specialists, learning disabilities
and autism, yeah, and obviously, did you say dementia?
Yeah, we said dementia, and I think it's also to remembering that obviously there's the statutory and mandatory to meet the CQC requirements, etc. The Commission's requirements, but there is that also those soft skills and those specialist skills around people. So the opportunity to understand and learn different ways to communicate is really important, because you can't just be process driven, task driven. It has to be understanding the individual and their individual needs. So about person-centred support and care. So it's about actually being able to understand what a personalised care and support plan is, to also contribute to it, but also then to make sure that you work each and every day to that, to enable that individual to have the best life that they want and need and deserve, and it's and there's things, we look at digital, isn't it, now as well, that's
Well, there's something that was again through a registered manager network meeting that we spoke about with the importance of training and developing staff, and it was actually CQC were the Care Quality Commission were in attendance at the meetings, and they were having a chat with the managers about the sort of things that they're going to be looking for when they do their inspections. And one of the things they said was about the training, and it's not just about delivering the training and a bit like a tick box exercise to make sure providers have delivered training to their staff, but then it's made the managers, for them to make sure that the staff are understanding the training that they've received through doing, and that's another thing that managers do, and we spoke about yesterday, was they're doing the regular one-to-one and supervision meetings with the individual staff members, and part of that will be to ensure that whatever training they've done, that they've got a good understanding of and the importance of that training that they've received. And that's where the managers will that's part of their role, to make sure that they've got the staff are fully supported with that.
Yeah, that's a really essential part, isn't it, of a good care provider. They need to know that person that's sat in their induction or gone to shadow another carer and see how things are done, that actually they then remember and retain and put all of that into practice with the clients that they care for.
Yeah.
So having those observations and those supervision meetings are a really integral part of it, aren't they?
And it is about, we need to ensure that it's safe practice.
Yeah.
I know I've got a family member who lives in a residential care home, and I expect her to be safe at all times.
Yeah.
And I expect that each of those staff know my sister and her needs, but also then about any specific learning that comes out of that to support her and other people that live there. And also I think it's important, as someone who works in the sector, that yes, you have your mandatory training, you have the specialist training and things to ensure that you're moving people safely, medication training, administration of medication, etc. But also, if you do have that passion, like we said earlier, when you find out about your staff, you might find someone's got a real interest in something or a passion. Well, if you can help them develop that and use that within their their work environment, again, that aids retention and how they enjoy the job, what they put into it. And at the end of the day, as we said earlier, the quality of care then just keeps, going higher and higher and higher, as you're meeting people's needs.
Caring for someone you love is one of the most important things you'll ever do, but it's not always easy. At Unique Senior Care, we're here whenever you need support. Whether it's a bit of advice, short-term respite, or ongoing care, we've been supporting families for over 15 years, and you can lean on us too. Call 0808 134 1164 to speak to a care expert or visit uniquecare.co.uk.
So one of the things that somebody who's new to care is expected to do as part of their training and development is the care certificate. Wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about what that is and how it works.
Yeah, the Level 2 care certificate is a Department of Health and Social Care reform initiative. So it was to give an accredited qualification as a baseline standard. So for anybody working in care who doesn't perhaps already have a qualification in health and social care, that they could do this particular certificate, and it would be like a starting point for them to give them the basic knowledge and awareness of what care is. So that's how it's come about. So there's a standard there that everybody can meet with this Level 2, with then looking at perhaps future development progressing onto other qualifications, maybe Level 3 and onwards, if that's what the individual wants to do, supported by their employer.
Yeah, and it's really important. It's because it can also be now with the new Level 2 care certificate accredited qualification, it can now be taken between employers as well, whereas before the standards weren't. So
it means it stops the need to repeat training. So if you've done your Level 2 accredited care certificate that's done through a training provider, so it's all assessed, but you perhaps were to leave that organisation and move to another one, you wouldn't then have to repeat it again because you've already got that accredited certificate there to say you've completed that training.
Yeah, you'd maybe just be assessed to see if there's anything that need refreshing. And what's the beauty of it as well, we've now got, which is great, which is the care workforce pathway that's just been developed. And that is a pathway that shows, we've said for a long time that adult social care hasn't really had that career pathway for people to see and to see the opportunities and to really professionalise the roles within the sector. Well, this now gives that opportunity. So the care certificate Level 2 actually is at the start of that journey, and then they can look at each role, each job. So your care assistant, your personal assistant, etc., your registered manager, that each of those roles has a descriptor. So it's not necessarily just based on the skills and the knowledge, but it's also around the values and the behaviours that are expected to be seen within that role. Because, as we said before, values are, we can give people training, we can put people through learning and development, but those values are very core. And that's something that we need to use in recruitment, but also to build on. And the care workforce pathway with the care certificate actually takes people on that journey and gives people a real opportunity to see the potential of their lifetime careers, if that's what they want within the sector.
The pathway gives like a structure to social care. We've got that for health, with your roles that are banded, so that you know how you can progress and develop. So, and that's what the care workforce pathway does for social care. It gives a structure to social care to show people where they can start, what sort of roles are available, what skills are required for each role, what qualifications might be needed. So you can see a pathway to help you to develop and progress within social care.
Brilliant. So if a family is looking for a care provider, what kind of questions would you suggest they ask about the training that person's had?
Well, I would ask if they had a organisational training plan for, is there a training plan for all the staff? And that does not just include the care assistants or the managers, etc., because it's really important that everyone who works there, so say for example if it's dementia specialists, then maybe the domestics, the chef, the maintenance, the office staff, do they have that awareness, that understanding on how to communicate, spotting those signs, those symptoms of maybe someone in distress, so that they can then flag that up? So that's the organisation. And then looking at what the specialist training is. So again, if it is dementia or learning disabilities and autism, what training is available to, and how often is it refreshed? Do they have individual training plans? Because I think that's really important. We have, we talk rightly so that an individual who has care and support has an individual person-centred care and support plan, but each member of staff should also have that. And I think it's looking at what opportunities do the staff have to learn and develop. And to me, that just shows, if they're putting that into the staff, that shows the care and respect they have for individuals, full stop. Be they in the workforce or be they actually, having care and support from them. It shows that they've put that importance on it and that every person is valued.
Yeah. I mean, there's also other thing, checking that, they've got a good, strong induction in place for any staff that are starting, that they've got that opportunity to, to be shadowing your more experienced staff members. But like Shirley said as well, it's checking that they're receiving perhaps that specialist training, and that that there is like maybe a check-in process in place from the manager, that they've understood that training, and what they've perhaps taken from it. And as well, that it isn't just the care staff that are doing it. It could be that, you've got other staff members that are responsible for the serving the meals, and maybe they're also receiving the appropriate training as well. If people are having, on specialist diets and things like that, so that all staff are aware and have received, the necessary training that's needed.
And I think it's looking at who delivers that training as well. I mean, one, it could be internal, and it's about what is their training for the trainers, and how do they check that they remain up to date. But also, if they're using external trainers, local colleges or local learning providers, who are they? What are their checks? There's a quality assurance accreditation that learning providers can go through, that we run on behalf of the Department of Health and Social Care. If you're using a local college or learning provider, are they actually accredited? Have they gone through the quality assurance process? So you've got those checks in place. It's been done by an external person. So I think it's making sure, because yes, they can say they have this training, but it's actually, one, is it quality? And as you say, Rachel, how do they check that it's being transferred into the everyday, work, that it's become second nature to them?
So you've talked quite a lot about values and some of the softer skills like communication and knowing how to build a relationship with somebody. How might a family member check that kind of training is working in the organisation that they are looking for care from?
They could ask to meet with the actual care workers who are working in the with the providers, for the ones that perhaps will be supporting their relatives, so that they can have a chat with them themselves. They could have a look on the provider's website, look at what their values are to see if they align with their own values as well. And obviously have an opportunity to meet with the managers and the staff, so that then they would be able to ask the relevant questions that would make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, you've also got obviously your Care Quality Commission CQC reports that you can look through, and that will look at the well-led status. What are the roles of the leaders, the managers? How are those put into practice? How do they support the workforce? You're safe and caring, your responsive elements. Training is a golden thread through all of those, really. So there's obviously the more, and also, you know, you can speak to other families that are there. Often a lot of them will have family relative meetings, and I think the more open that an organisation is, says a lot about, you know, if they're more than happy for you to go in, you know, to speak to other members, or they'll put you in touch with maybe another family. They're happy to you to speak to the members of staff. And I think just by being in somewhere and just observing and seeing that interaction, you know, are people task driven? Rather, yes, they've got a task to do, but actually they're involving the individual. It is very person centred. They are communicating with that individual while they're undertaking that task and explaining about why they are and making sure that it's someone's choice. Little things like that, just by sitting observing, you know, you pick up so much.
I think, again, this was from a register manager network, but one of the register managers said that they had had a comment from a person that had gone in who's potentially looking at placing their relative there, that, you know, all sort of care homes are the same. And she said, well, I can assure you ours isn't, you know, the same, but, you know, you will see for yourself. But she said their relative, they did go, but she said the person had obviously gone in a couple of times, you know, and spoken with some of the care workers, and obviously, you know, had obviously observed things that were going on. And she said she received an email after a couple of days from her to say, you're right, not every care home is the same. And she said, you know, the support, I can see that actually the care home itself is a home. It's not a care home.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel comfortable with my partner, you know, being there, because I feel that he'll feel like he's at home. He's not in a care home. And I think that's, from what Shirley said, you're going in and you can observe that yourself. You can see that, and you can see what sort of environment it is, and if staff are happy there, and that obviously does come across.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, you know, we've talked a lot about care homes, but obviously one of the biggest parts of adult social care is actually within people's own homes. So it's actually looking at that as well, in how people are, how the staff teams are, again, inducted into that. So actually they're brought along, they're mentored, they come and shadow, they're introduced. They're not just sent to someone's house, a complete stranger, knocking on the door, or not even knocking, a key, and in they go. It's little things like that, you know, that, again, it's that, the values, the respect, and how then people, and we go back to the training, you know, sometimes training within people supporting the community is very different to care homes, because you have got to look around the health and safety aspect for both the care worker and the individual. It is about they can walk in that house and they don't know what's the other side. Someone could be collapsed on the floor. So how do they deal in an emergency? And I suppose we've got to make sure as family members that actually each and every member of staff who's going to walk into that individual's home can deal with whatever's the other side.
It would be obviously to find out that what processes, what policies are in place, how that staff member is then trained to respond in different situations, and what support they've got. So that's something that obviously can be you can, you know, discuss with the provider.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well we sort of haven't touched on a lot is the changes now in regards to technology and digital. So I think there's some amazing, you know, move forwards with technology, when, you know, what we've seen over the last few years, and it's progressing at such a fast pace. I think maybe questions around how an organisation is adopting these changes, but also then how are the staff supported and trained in using them appropriately, and are the right, again, systems and processes in place. So, you know, around data protection, confidentiality.
Yeah.
So it's not just using the technology. So a lot of, certainly within going into the community, people have handheld devices that they go in and they record their visits and, how somebody is, the medication, etc., etc. But we need to ensure that they understand how to keep that information safe and secure at all times, as well as being able to use that to its best advantage. And it's also, again, we talk about bringing people into the sector. Technology is such a fascinating sort of change that's come in, and we can really encourage people in to look at. So there's roles being developed at the moment, like a care technologist role, which is quite exciting for people who've never thought of social care before, to realise that actually this is very different. This is a real opportunity for me. So I think we've really got to embrace that, but also we've got to make sure that the workforce is ready. But I think certainly as a family member, to sort of ask some of those questions, again, helps you see that they are not wanting to progress and wanting to make sure that your loved one is receiving the best opportunities that they could do.
The Unique Senior Care Advice Hub is a free online resource to help you make sense of care. It's full of expert advice, practical guides on things like dementia and funding, and real stories from families who've been in your shoes. Visit uniquecare.co.uk/care advice hub to feel more confident about what comes next.
You've talked about how different it is having a carer go into someone's own home and care for them in that setting versus a care home or a residential or nursing home, and how, in a care home setting, it might be easy to walk in and get a feel for the place. Whereas if you're in your own home, the carers might need a slightly different kind of training because they are on their own. So are there any other differences that you would say if someone was looking to find care in their loved one's home that they might need to look out for in terms of the training or the skills or the way that the organisation develops their staff?
I think it would be, again, speaking, with the providers about how they, how they would make sure that perhaps, that there's not different staff going in, every single day to your, so that potentially, the person that's in receipt of the care feels comfortable, that they know who's going to be coming into them. And perhaps would there be an opportunity there to, have that sort of, the meet, so that they're aware of who's going to be coming in. And again, you can still be asking the same questions about the training, how they train their staff, how regularly they train them, how they ensure that they understand the training that's being delivered, not just the statutory, the mandatory training, but also the specialist training that they're delivering, how often that's delivered, and making sure that they're fully, the staff members are fully understanding what the training that they're having and the importance, the reason why they're having it, for any specialist training that they needed. What else would there be?
And I'm thinking maybe on some of the aspects of health and safety can be very different. As we said, you open that door, you don't know what you're going to encounter the other side. So it's also about personal safety as well, because you could be going into someone's home that it could be quite a volatile situation that maybe you yourself might feel unsafe with. So I think it's really important that actually personal safety wherever you work in adult social care, in any care setting, obviously is important, but maybe when you're going out into the community and into someone's home, then there's maybe another angle to it, to ensure that you keep yourself safe. And what are those? What do you do in those circumstances so people feel comfortable and confident in dealing with it? But certainly, I mean, again, that person-centred is important throughout. But certainly going in, however many calls you're going to that day, each one is different, and you must always remember that. How the first person you go into, wants to be, supported is very, very different to when you go to your next one. And you must always remember that, and always check that, the training must ensure that people check on their plans, because also those plans are live plans. So that's the other thing. I think, individuals should be trained in ensuring that those plans, if they spot, well, hold on, I know that Mr. So-and-so has always liked his shower first thing in the morning and, his medication, but actually I've spotted that some changes in his medication, we need to make sure that actually he needs to have those before he gets up. So we'd need to maybe adapt the way that we're working, we're supporting, and it's things like that. So it's about sort of their observation skills as well, spotting those signs and symptoms of maybe deterioration, or maybe it's, actually we're seeing that they're not able to look after themselves as they were before, so we need to flag that up.
So you need to be confident that that person in someone's own home has a lot of initiative to notice the changes, to be proactive about calling the doctor or speaking to the occupational therapist because something is different now. To ensure that that deterioration doesn't happen, or at least doesn't progress, because they've taken action.
Yeah, and I think we forget sometimes. Again, we've talked about how skilled and professional these individuals are who work in the sector. So being able to go in and spot those signs of deterioration, to then have the confidence to report it back to your managers, but also then if need be, to have conversation with doctors, occupational therapist, family members. It does take a lot of confidence in your knowledge and skills as well. And I think we sometimes forget that.
Yeah, I think for relatives as well, knowing that, like Shirley said, for the individuals, the carers that are going to be coming in, if you can be checking with the employers that how are they supporting and training their staff to spot those signs, to spot the deterioration signs, or that something might have changed or something's been missed, and that they're trained and supported to then be able to feed that back, so they know the process that they need to follow. And I think as a relative, you'd want to be checking with the provider that they've got all those steps in place, so that their staff members are fully supported, and know exactly what to do in any situation.
Yeah. So we know that there might be people listening to this who are looking for care for their own loved ones, but there might also be carers or members of staff within care organisations who are listening. What advice would you give someone working in the care sector?
Well, I would say that to speak with your manager about what training options, or what training development opportunities are available. If you're keen to develop your skills, if you want to look at progression maybe, then most managers and most employers are want to support you to do that. Because that's a key way of helping to retain staff as well, by investing in them. Speak to your manager about, what do you particularly enjoy? What would you like to develop further? With regards to any specialisms, and speak to your manager about how you might be able to do that and what opportunities are available. And there's lots of opportunities available through Skills for Care, which hopefully, your manager would then be able to link in with.
Yeah, and I think then also for the leaders and managers themselves is to ensure that they're linked in with their locality managers, such as Rachel. There's one in every area, and accessing the resources that we have available, and accessing such things as the support of the registered managers networks, nominated individual networks, so that actually you've got that peer-to-peer support, that learning, that sharing of best practice, so they don't feel so lonely. But also there's a raft of seminars, tools, resources that people can access in regards to meeting CQC regulations, is development as a leader and manager with your skills and knowledge. So I'd say without a doubt, for each and every organisation to ensure the link with their Skills for Care locality manager.
Brilliant, thank you. And from a family member's perspective, what would be a key takeaway or piece of advice you could give them about training in regards to care workers or care organisations?
I would say speak to the individual provider that you're looking to maybe use, to look at and ask them about their training plans, their inductions, what induction process they've got for new staff, and what training do they put their staff through. Besides, your sort of your mandatory and statutory training, what else is there that they look to? How do they support their staff to develop their skills to make sure that they're providing the best care possible?
Great, thank you.
Yes, and I think moving on from that is looking at the overarching learning development plans, but also then looking specifically at if there are specific needs for your loved one, is how are they going to ensure that each member of staff is going to have that understanding, the right training specific to your family member. And obviously I will say, for every family member to make sure and ask the question, are you linked with Skills for Care?
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you've given some really practical tips and advice that will benefit people. They'll know maybe where to start in something that can be quite overwhelming when you're trying to find the right person to care for that important person in your life.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you to everyone listening. We hope this episode has made you feel more confident about what compassionate skilled care looks like and how to find it. I've been your host, Jo Cleary. You've been listening to the Care Podcast from Unique Senior Care. We hope that you'll join us for the next episode.